What was your initial impression of Letchworth?
I thought that it was a lovely, lovely, lovely field.
And you were born in the field, or you were born before?
I was born before the field.
And then you went to the field?
I went to university in Scarborough. I took a degree in Spanish and and how do you know? But I'd lost all knowledge of it when I got to Letchworth.
So you've done these degrees, varying success rates. What was your mark in your degrees?
I got a first.
Was that the first time? You mean, or do you mean you got a first?
It was the first time I'd taken any degree.
And what mark did you get at the end?
I got 2.22.
And then, so after these degrees, you discovered Letchworth. Talk us through that.
I was in Scunthorpe. I travelled down. I can't remember. I got lost along the M6, and I found myself being reborn. I knew I was somewhere not far from London. It was Hertfordshire. So
getting back to the foundations of Letchworth.
I find myself in a field and I decide to give birth to another human being.
And that's your father?
And that's my father.
And how did that come about?
Well,
it's kind of unconventional for the father-son relationship to work that way around.
Technically it's an impossibility, but it happened. I was just walking along in a place that's now called William, and I saw this lovely field with lovely undulation just going up. I thought I'd walk up there, and I got this awful stomach pain. I felt something fall out between my legs. I knew it was my father. He said, "Don't worry, we're going to found a town called Letchworth, but I will have to sleep for 12 years.
Isn't that come as a bit of a shock? One, you've just given birth to a human. Two, the human's your father. Three, you're going to found a town called Letchworth together. Four, he has to sleep for 12 years.
What shocked me most was that we were going to form a small town and call it a city. That was quite difficult for me to get my
I've still
mind
not
around.
got my head around that. Because 99% of life exists in imagination.
That's true.
So when I'm imagining Welwyn Garden City, I am creating it anew in my imagination. So if I determine that it's a city in my imagination, I have certain images: car parks, hustle and bustle, peaked roofs. And when I think town, I think pubs, I think little tiny men that live on the beach.
Yeah, yeah. You get them.
Did you know that human beings are unable to invent new grandma's houses in their imaginations? So any time you've dreamt about going to a grandma's house, it would have been one that you've been to in real life.
That's
so Letchworth.
Yeah.
So your father's been born. He's crawled off to sleep for 12 years. So what did you do for that period of time, those 12 years?
I took up cricket, golf and ping pong, and I learnt the sport of science in depth, all through Wikipedia.
How are you finding your exile from Hertfordshire?
It's been Hertfordshire. I'll miss Kennedy Gardens. I'll miss Lordship, especially.
The cinema.
Yeah.
Inaccurately described as the best cinema in the world by you earlier on this evening.
Did I say that?
You said it to yourself when you were in the bathroom.
Yeah, no, I did. I claimed it was the best bathroom in cinema for several reasons. One was actually the bathroom facilities, and also they had 12 screens. They had 3 really big ones where everyone could see it, and then they also had 9
Tiny
really
ones.
small ones for anyone who didn't really want to see the film.
Tell me about the band that you and your father formed as in an effort to kind of keep Letchworth, the dream of Letchworth alive.
Well,
You formed a rock band.
Yeah. Well, me and my dad, we formed the Weasels. We're classic rock.
What kind of subjects were you singing about? Love, war?
We sung about
revenge.
revenge and
Money.
money. You know, I mean, I say revenge just because you said that. But,
Did you get any gigs?
We got a gig at the tavern. The band consisted of me,
Yeah.
my dad on the drums, the two women. They played the bass. One of them would
Do that.
play the strings, and
the
the
other
other
one
one would do the
Yeah, I've seen that. I've done
the
before.
vibe,
The
the
vibes.
vibe.
Yeah, the vibes.
We were all loved up in those days. We were popping a lot of love pills.
What kind of decade was that?
1920s. That was how it fell.
But it was actually the
1980s.
1980s.
Yeah, definitely.
Because things work on 40-year cycles in terms of feeling.
This is 20s.
80s, so
80s,
no, that would
yeah.
be 60 years, but 40 years would have been
That
but the
was
80s felt like the 60s.
No, it felt like 40 years after the 20s, basically.
So the 60s?
Yeah, no, the 80s.
No, hold on. 40 years after the 20s is the 60s. So it was in the 80s, but it felt like the 60s.
Yeah, basically, that's it, John. That's it.
Letchworth seems to have an unnecessarily large quota of the population to be suffering from Jeffrey syndrome. In common parlance, you believe to be the first person in the United Kingdom, if not the entire world, with Jeffrey syndrome.
It was a bit like Jesus Christ, going around going on about the fact that he's Jesus. He's got no interest in that.
No, I know, but he didn't infect everyone with Jesus syndrome. Well, he did in a way, but that's more of that. You know, Jeffrey syndrome it affects the central nervous system.
Not in a good way.
Well, it depends what you mean by in a good way.
I mean, do you know why it's called Jeffrey syndrome? Jeffrey was a small man that managed to get into Letchworth in the days when it was barricaded. He has no recollection. Before that, he thought he was a science wizard, playing with time in
Milton Keynes.
Milton Keynes.
How did you know I was going to say Milton Keynes?
Well, I was waiting for you to say Milton
okay.
Keynes because
It's the only thing you can say.
yeah, it's the only thing I can't say. I did say it then, but
So you have said it one time.
I've said it once.
So the question you seem to be avoiding for the majority of the interview is why is it that you're no longer welcome in Letchworth?
There was one night, like everyone been watching Saving Private Ryan in the fucking cinema, and I was standing outside as a protest, not against the film. I didn't even know what film was going on. I was just standing in the protest against the car park that I'd originally built, and I was just basically saying, let's all go back to square one. I was just saying that really loudly over and over again. Let's all go back to square one. Let's all go back to square one. But basically, you know, people came out of Private Ryan and they saw me saying this, and they thought there was something interesting going on. So they gathered round, and I was just saying the same thing over and over again.
Well, what were you actually protesting against?
I was trying to go back to square one.